Live.
You're live.
All right. Welcome to the May 2015 MyMobileVille Meetup. Coming off of a holiday weekend, we don't have a lot of people physically here, but Richard and I are going to talk and see who else might join us online. Hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. I know I did, so much so that I actually forgot to make the event on Google Plus until today. So that didn't help. So anyway, good to see you, Richard.
Good to see you, man.
And we'll start off with some iOS news. There were a couple of things that have caught my eye. First off, obviously, I was hoping there'd be some people here that have now had the watch for a while, because in our last meeting that it was just days into them having the watch, the Apple Watch, and getting what their take was, but who can really give a full-on, it's almost like someone writing a review. They're only given like a couple of days for it, and then they're writing a review that everyone's like using that as a benchmark, like what's the thing like? So as if Samantha and the others could really even rate it. It'd be interesting to see what their thoughts are. So that said, I know that there's been enough from podcasts or articles or just talking with some friends at random things of like what they thought and what they're enjoying. There certainly sounds very familiar to Android Wear as far as loving the notifications. Obviously they happen in a different kind of a way, but the notifications part where I just keep hearing a common denominator of I love how I don't have to pull my phone out. And that is very nice.
That's what I keep hearing about. Everybody's saying.
It's not the be-all and end-all to them. There's going to be so much more potential for all of these wearables as we move on, but certainly that's the number one thing is just the fact that that you don't have to get your phone on out. You can just glance on down. At the same time, I still find myself making comparisons to glass, that there's times to where it's not even convenient for me to glance at my wrist. If you're walking, you're carrying things in both hands, and suddenly a notification goes off. Just like right now, I just got a notification on glass and saw that someone else just responded to the meetup. And I just saw a notification on glass just by looking up. But if I was walking and I'm carrying stuff, you'd have to put something down. But granted, it's still more convenient than ever to get your phone on out. And then there's people who aren't even into this yet who just say, my gosh, talk about a first world problem. Like, it's that big of a deal to pull your phone out of your pocket. But there's still that convenience factor of that. And certainly there's the glances and whatnot. A lot of people who they're into baseball, here we're in baseball season now, they've just got their favorite teams, and just to be able to swipe through the glances really quickly and see some of that info. And just be interesting to see as this continues on. The thing is, I heard people talking about that the sales are kind of flattening, but
not unusual.
It's not unusual, and at the same time, this is the device that, granted, with Android Wear now, just about a year ago it was announced, Google I/O of last year, and that there's still less than 1 million units that have been sold, and yet there's been like roughly 10 million units of Apple Watches sold in such a short time. But it's still indicative of the fact that this is a new technology that right now people aren't necessarily seeing if they have a reason for it. Even if they see someone else with it and they're just like, I don't know, and then they look at the price, you really got to want it. So what we got right now is just the early adopters. We're just going to say it's the first piece of new technology from Apple in like 5 years. 5? Yeah. They're going to want to check that out. But that said, certainly I don't consider it just because the sales are kind of leveling on out. It's just that what you've hit is those people who were just drooling to get it, and now you'll just continue to have it, and it's going to grow. And there's people who even wait beyond version 1 because that they just know, not just with Apple, but any device, just like they'd rather wait and let things get ironed out.
That's one of the other things that I heard is this is just 1.0 Apple Watch.
And think of Apple.
First iPhones, the iPhone 6 Plus.
I mean,
it's grown a little bit.
A little bit, yes. So with that, there's definitely a future in these, and it'd be interesting to see how how all the products mature, because Pebble is still not to be discounted, and it's going to be an option that someone could say, hey, I could choose, and it doesn't matter which phone I'm on, it's not going to be a deal breaker, and still have it. We'll see. Is Apple going to continue to allow Pebble to have the functionality that it has had, or will they start to clamp on down to wean people off of that? And also, there's been rumor of Android Wear trying to make a version of the software that would run, so you'd at least get Google Now notifications, which, if that's all they got, and someone was on iOS and decided, you know what, I'd rather get an inexpensive Android Wear one that I know I could beat up and I wouldn't be too concerned about, especially right now. It's kind of a topic for later, but the Moto 360 is now available for $150. You figure then there's other ones that just really didn't care. They could get something for like $50. They had themselves an Android Wear watch. They would not be the fanciest thing, but then if all they really wanted is some of those notifications, and if Google Now notifications came to iOS and they allowed it, they'd be pleased as punch. They're like, you know what, I don't want to have to do all the other fancy things. I'm just pleased to be able to get those notifications, and that'd be great. So we'll see how that all fares over time. But so speaking of the Apple Watch, I saw there was an article that was about backing up the Apple Watch. Doesn't exactly work like your iOS device, and some of the data on the watch, like workout and activity calibration data, for example, won't be included in your backup. So 9to5Mac has an article that is how to back up your Apple Watch settings data. So that's very interesting discovery there as far as, I'm not sure from the Android Wear side of things of if that data is backed up or not. I just saw this article today, so I am curious to see what kind of feedback there is in that regard, or anything from Wear perspective, because they say like workout and activity calibration data. I'm not really sure what that all comprises, because the workout data I would think is going to Apple Health.
Right.
And so then even if your watch just totally took a shit, or you lost it, whatever the case might be, and it just died, that wouldn't all that data already just be in Apple Health? So I'm not sure if there's something else above and beyond that when they say the workout and activity calibration stuff, but never really thought about the fact of anything having to be backed up, because I always just thought, well, anything you're seeing on the watch, essentially, it's on the phone.
Your phone.
So that data should be provided there. But at the same time, it's the other way for a lot of the data from the watch, especially when it comes to all the sensors and all of that info. So I guess maybe if it is from the calibration side of things, that there's certain things that that the watch was set up as you went through it, then that stuff isn't necessarily back to the phone. Although that, again, I could see that coming with a software update at some point in time, where then Apple would just say, listen, I see it, someone just discovered we aren't backing up everything, let's go ahead and put that out in a fix. Again, this was saying the version 1 kind of thing anyway. There's going to be a lot more enhancements. So another one was that, and this was interesting, is there was an article, and I can include the link later because it's called the technews21.com, but it was featuring an article about to provide advanced apps, and so then what they were showing was one that had to do with Lufthansa Airlines.
Lufthansa? German.
Yes. And what they showed, and I didn't read the article in its entirety, but just was glancing at it and saw the screenshots, is that it's just allowing more robust, this is not being yet apps, because you know how that they really don't have they haven't opened up the SDK for apps to be built, and that will be coming in months to come. So that really you're only just supposed to be, it's an extension of the app on the phone. But what they were showing in a series of screenshots was enhanced information for your flight, so that it would show like what seat you're on, so on and so forth. And it reminded me of what Google Now would do if you had all that information. And again, this is if you choose to do that. You don't choose to be in the Googleverse, and the Google Now is only going to provide you that info. But I guess just in my context, when I'm trying to compare, okay, so here's Lufthansa is making an app to provide all this detailed information, like what gate you're at, what seat you're at, so on and so forth, and that very same information, if your itinerary is in Gmail, is going to show up in Google Now if you choose to share it, and so that it's like, it wouldn't matter if you're on Lufthansa or if you're on Delta or United, that it's just going to show to Google Now, whereas this perspective is that you would end up having to have a distinct app for each of those.
For each airline.
To get, and then their experience is not necessarily going to be the same, et cetera. Some of them might just be nothing more than your boarding pass. But I think that's something that's just going to come with the maturity of these, that you know that right now that God and everybody is trying to figure out how they're going to make it, how they're going to be on the Apple Watch. I mean, certainly once that the watch was announced that it was going to be coming out, that Humana started brainstorming, came up with Q, been very successful, and that was distinctly for the purpose of like, what can we do to end up being on the watch? It's going to be a platform that we need to be on, and likewise, once it can actually be a standalone app, then we'll see where we take that to that next level. Right now, it's a phone app, which is just giving you notifications on Interact on the watch. But so we're going to just have a gluttony of apps that are going to be coming on out, because everyone's going to want their piece of the real estate. They want to be in that grid of that myriad of icons, and hopefully be sticky and be where
on the front screen, and big, and
I can't remember if you know this particulars as far as like how many of the icons you can actually have in that grid of icons. I'm not sure if it's probably not infinite, but I mean, obviously you can zoom it down so far you can't really even see anything, and then you just see it as kind of a hexagon shape. It's kind of funny. I saw a picture where it was making a joke, or maybe it wasn't, of how the inspiration for the layout of the icons on the Apple Watch, and they showed a drain to a bathtub, and it's got the holes are kind of in that hexagonal type of layout. And I laughed at first. I was like, you know what? It might have been to where someone taking a shower, looking down, like, what if we laid the icons out like that? And lo and behold,
stranger things have happened.
Exactly. I mean, that can be the inspiration to where you just look and go, perfect layout. But anyway, you know that ideally someone wants for their apps and their icons to end up being in the center of that cluster, so that you aren't having to scroll off to the side and zoom in and remember which apps you've got.
Right.
And it's going to become a very crowded place.
And Apple's going to be in the center. Apple apps are going to be in the center of what?
Oh, yeah. And I'm not sure if that's as far as like, do certain ones just stay anchored?
Yeah.
It's like that's not.
Yeah,
it's not
my
editable.
guess is that's the way it is. I haven't played with it, so I don't know.
Yeah. And so, as you know, that the Apple Watch has Force Touch to it, and so then Force Touch, as I understand, iOS 9 is rumored to be supporting iPhone 6s Force Touch. So there's going to be a lot more. We can talk more about any details that you might know of the pending WWDC stuff coming up. But you want to elaborate on anything as far as...
I don't know what else. There are so many rumors that it just doesn't make sense to even think about it, to be honest.
True.
The big thing's probably going to be iOS 9 announcement. It'll still be August before it comes out. Probably because the iPhone 6s.
Then, though, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it'll go to the developers and
shortly after.
Yeah, shortly after. But the iPhone 6s is already rumored for August. That's probably when they'll bring iOS 9 out. I did hear that iOS 9 is the death knell for 4Ss.
So
it's not going to upgrade 4S phones.
Really?
Yeah, it'll be 5C, 5S, 6s.
Not to say that someone still can't function just fine in version 8. It's just that if you want to enjoy the features, the hardware is just you finally get to a point, which is reasonable.
Apparently, they're going to allow 2 apps on screen at the same time, which is something they need to do. That's key, I think.
Yes, the split screen.
Yeah, that's a big screen that I have. Okay,
yes.
There's no reason why I can't have 2 on there at the same time. And cut paste back and forth and whatever.
Right. Yes, which is something that I know that ever since when the Samsung Note first came out, that was a big deal, to where there'd just be a little icon off to the side that you could, a little handle that you could tap and then choose which apps that you wanted to have in split screen, and not have to be toggling back and forth, but instead literally have both of them going. And now the screen size certainly allows it even on the 6,
yes, it does.
And the 6 Plus, and then on the larger phablet style Android phones as well. Totally makes sense. I know that there was some talk about the larger, like 12 iPad. So I guess that's probably comes in along. They're working with IBM as far as to try to get more penetration into the enterprise as a just leverage being even more of a work tool, and certainly with being a king size iPad like that of 12 inches, and then having split screen capability would open up a bunch of possibilities there as well, because then you're really talking some.
There's a lot of real estate on the pad.
Yeah. I could see someone having be a good or something, so they've got their email over here, and then they've got the browser.
Evernote on one side, the browser, back and forth, cut and paste.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I make a prediction that Thursday, if not Friday, there will be some announcements from Apple of what is at least the, if it is tied to WWDC.
7 to 10 June is when they're going to, they haven't announced the exact date yet. They're hoping real close.
Well, maybe that'd be one of the things. Yeah. But I guarantee that on Thursday, if not Friday, probably on Thursday, because they will time it because on Thursday, Google I/O starts. And so the media machine that is Apple will
start pulling the rest
so that while there's posts and people watching streams and paying attention to what's the Google news, then, you know, in this ongoing battle, which I still think is good for consumers in the end. I think they're just like, they will hold on.
Competition is a good thing.
It is. But there will be announcements that will take place. Just like that, there's recently been quite a few things that just from Google, even just some updates to Android Wear, you know, and a lot more buzz just about wearables that Google has just been trickling out news. You know, likewise, it's because the Apple Watch just came out. So just be like, hey, don't forget, we're over here with Android Wear.
Yeah.
And
when Google I/O starts, the press will be inundated with their stuff too.
Yes. Yep. So what it does make for is an awful lot of headlines that have to be catching up. You're trying to.
Yeah.
The best. I save a bunch of stuff to Pocket. The place I always call it the place where I save all my links and only occasionally get to catching up and reading everything. But so as I was saying about the Moto X earlier, on Moto's site themselves, as well as at Best Buy, the Moto 360. I'm going to change it here on my note. I said Moto X because so the Moto 360. I just woke up my phone.
Opening Google.
No, you don't need to open up Google. That's okay. But the Moto 360, the smartwatch, is on sale for $149, which I did see one post where a person said, translation, that means Google's going to be announcing a Nexus watch. And they very possibly could, but if so, I have not seen one iota of any kind of hint, rumor. You know, sometimes, you know, when there'll be a device, now granted, there is one, should I say. There's a listing that was for what they call a, and what it was not, you know, what it called, redacted. A lot of the information was redacted from the filing so that you couldn't really see it. So then right now all it's generalized as Google has some sort of mystery Bluetooth device that they might be talking about at Google I/O. So then somebody like, oh, might it be the next version of Glass? I say no. I think Tony Fadell is going to keep that under wraps probably through the whole rest of this year while they continue to work with Exotica, with Intel, and internally test, and then probably next year that we would actually see the first word of anything with Glass. I'd be pleasantly surprised if it happened before that. So then when someone said it might be Glass, like, no, not that soon. It was only just a couple months ago that they stopped the Explorer program, and they really got to go back. They're not going to go back to the drawing board and come out with something that fast. So then suddenly it comes to mind, maybe it is a watch, and that it would be whoever created it. Could be Huawei, could be LG, who knows, and make one that is just a Nexus watch, and now all of a sudden it's going to have specs that are more on par with like how the Apple Watch has got a lot more hardware functionality to it, etc. Have the built-in Wi-Fi, maybe have a speaker, I don't know, because it's kind of funny, a year ago, what Google really preached about the Android Wear was that it was not, don't expect it to be a replacement for your phone, it's supposed to be an extension of your phone. They really want to leverage the whole Google Now thing, etc. And then, ironically, Apple, who usually keeps things simple, suddenly announces a watch that does everything with the kitchen sink with it. And so I imagine as they go on, they'll figure out, they threw a bunch of things against the wall, and they're going to see what, which has really been kind of uncharacteristic of Apple, because they usually instead will wean out a little bit at a time some features, and then this time around.
This is what you're allowed to have. Yeah, this is what we know you want.
And in this case, then there's a lot, and maybe they'll pare back, and there'll be certain functionality that won't necessarily happen. But that said, even if there is a new device, someone still wouldn't go wrong to have a Moto 360 for $150. It's kind of funny because that's about the price of the Milanese Loop band for the stainless steel edition of the Apple Watch, so that for the price of just a band, the fancy band, which I understand is very, very nice. Did the one guy? That's right. He did have one. One guy had the sport band. So very nice band, but same time
very expensive.
Yeah. And like I said, that's the 360 for 150. You could even get some other models that are even less than that at this point, because then they're just that first gen, and also we're going to move on into second gen pieces of hardware. And as I understand, on sale at that price until June 9th, at least at Best Buy. I imagine it might be the same time for the watch that I'm currently using, which I'm motivated. And I was looking on a site that watch those. I'll call it the typical like plastic. If I'm getting ready, I'm in a hurry, that I can just take this thing and just slap it on with one hand. If it did become disconnected, it's not going to be banned, but just so that it did come disconnected, the whole watch is going to fall off, and any of the this one, or just those buckle ones, like, oh, you got to sit there with one hand and you're trying to get the But see if I can show them the camera here. This has definitely suffered some water stains. So you totally soak it. Let it soak for a period of time, and then you let it dry. Because when it goes away, so I'm this try because I don't. But a next, I just watch announced. It's easy on this watch as I could be, but I still notice that I got several dings and whatnot. And I just think of the fact that if I were to, for years I worn a watch, and to spend for it, or even more, you end up having to really treat it like it is a fine piece of jewelry. Whereas if you did have a very fancy, a Rolex or any other kind of every day, wear it from morning, noon, and night. And there's times just inadvertently I go to reach in the cupboard or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden, ding. I was doing something the other. Helping just a neighbor. She wanted to get her propane tank disconnected from her grill. So I go to reach, and boom, hit right up. And I don't know what I did hit, but I didn't see. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what I have on. Whatever, I just somehow inadvertently hit the grill when I reached down in. It was like, no, I better do that in my right hand. Yeah. So that I'm okay with the watch being a little bit. I might end up replacing it more often, and if it does get damaged, it's not so horribly bad. Although it's still, some people are like, hey, at $150 for the 360, so like that, I don't even know money.
Yeah.
I'm a tech lover, so then I look at that. Yeah. Really, last time I wore a watch,
get all used to it again.
It was probably about, I'll say roughly 2000 when I first. I used to have watches, and I ditched it. Also, I was like, wow, I don't have to wear a watch anymore because my watch is, I've got the time right there, and that's always with. And now here I am, 15 years later, wearing a watch, and when it gets like sweaty underneath on my wrist, I can't stand that sweaty feeling. But certainly, if I didn't have glass, I think I'd probably be even more, I don't even use the word addicted, but just, well, I'd be using it much more frequently. It's just there's certain times of notifications I get them on glass, and it's just, like I said earlier, somebody gets a notification of someone making a post about the meetup, and I look up and I see it, and boom, I'm on my way. Don't even look up, watch it. So Twitter was I did open it up earlier and saw that Chris Perillo was posting something. Right there. All right. I know it's kind of, I don't need to see that much detail at this point, but yeah. So I'm sure for the most part, other than the fact that you see we've got our floating action button, which for material design, you know, so that if I end up tapping on that, then it's, you know, I can make it a public or a private stream and then start streaming. Otherwise, then if I just go on out and I thought I just saw one that was about sunset. I wanted to check that out. Oh, it moves too fast. There's a lot. Oh, here we go. Sunset in Central Park.
If I'll sing a song.
I noticed these.
Thanks for the request. I'm going to be doing some songs.
One thing that drives me nuts, if you're playing,
too many graphics on it,
is that the having. I wish that I could turn toggle off, and maybe you can, and I've just not discovered it, but can't stand all of the comments coming up and all those hearts floating on by. It's like I'd rather just be able to see the video.
Yeah, put the video on.
And that be that. Otherwise, I haven't played with it from a streaming standpoint at this point, but I look forward to toying around with it now. I did have Meerkat on as well. Bless their hearts, I'm not sure how much longer Meerkat will survive with Periscope now being on Android as well, that Twitter might just make it a little bit impossible for them to continue on. But what I also look forward to is perhaps if they were to make Periscope, it'd be awesome if there was a Periscope version that was for Glass, although right now with Glass really being in that kind of hibernation phase, it would have to be somebody would have to try to make a version that would work on Glass and port the existing Periscope app unofficially to work on Glass. But it would be a perfect scenario for it because there was always the ability, well, used to be the ability to be able to do video hangout from Glass. Glass streams on air, but there's some other apps that allow you to do live streaming like that, but then you're doing a lot of dancing just to be able to make it work, so it's not really worth all the effort. But so that's Periscope. Google Cardboard. I know we've talked about Cardboard before, and I did bring my Cardboard. Have you played with it before? No. If not, then I'll have to show you after. We won't spend a bunch of time while we're. But so here is my Google Cardboard. Nothing too fancy to it. You see, there's a washer on the side, and actually the washer is there's a magnet that's glued underneath the cardboard here, and so when you pull down on the washer, you're activating the magnet, and basically are able to it's like selecting when you might like be pointing the cursor at something, and all of a sudden you pull down the magnet, and it's doing as if you're doing a finger tap. And then otherwise, then they've just got these funky lenses that are in there, and then there is you can see it. Oh, you kind of see it down inside. There's an NFC tag that's in there. No, I'm sorry. The NFC tag is actually right there. And so then that's all that's required is that you end up having an NFC device and be able to slip it on in. And for larger devices, they make a larger version of Cardboard. You just slide it on in, and then you're able to just see. And so basically what it does, and I can show you, mentioned this before, is like Google Maps has a feature built right into it, which is cool that the Maps team made this happen so quickly. Not that there'd be a lot of development effort. All they're doing is really splitting the screen. But I'll show you that if I chose like this area right here where we're at, 1229 Shelby, all right, and then I tap to see the street view. Oh, where is it? There it is. So let me go to street view here. All right, and then I'm actually out of the side street, but let me get out onto the main drag here. All right. And then we just go down just a little bit here. We're at the front of the building that we're in.
Yes.
Okay, so right there is the park.
Right.
is that building right there. So then, when you're in this mode, there is where you can be.
Here's what's amazing. It was hung 6 days ago.
Wow.
It says the park. Yes.
Through the street view.
Yes.
They're getting fast at updating.
6 days ago, they haven't got something. That's amazing.
So you see this icon down here. This is to turn from manual mode of scrolling around to turning on compass mode, and then you can see that as I move.
Oh, cool.
You can see a little bit. It's hard to. Let me get it this way. You can see that as I move around, that I pan, it's automatically doing it. So if I come back over to this manual mode and zoom around, so there again is the park. If I double tap on that, it splits it. Oh, wait a minute, did I've got my orientation locked. There we go. All right, so see how it's just basically a split view of the same thing? Oh, and it automatically turns it into the compass mode. But now you put this on to cardboard, and you are immersed in the street view. And then as you're turning around, standing in place, you're panning around and looking. Just recently, they added street view to my childhood hometown streets, a little dead-end street in upstate New York. And then as you're going down the street as well, it's kind of hard because I'm trying to get turned here with the compass mode. But you can see on the thing, and you can move yourself around. So you can move up and down the street again by toggling that little washer in. So you're moving on down the street. So again, I just double tap. That's just kind of like an Easter egg. Now see, I'm back just in a normal view with the maps. I'm tapping. And then there's other apps that you can just get. And so that there's supposed to be, at Google I/O, going to be sessions that are much more involved in virtual reality now. And cardboard, which kind of had started off is a little bit of a running joke, that it's like, okay, the Oculus Rift is out there, and $800 and so on and so forth, and then we bring to you Google Cardboard. And so you can see this one's actually the unofficial cardboard.
Yes.
This costs like $12 assembled. You can get it for cheaper. There's a bunch of different places you can get them. And it's just fun because there's even some apps. One of them is a Paul McCartney concert, and you're on stage. So they use the same kind of camera they use for Street View, so that it's all the different directions, and then you put on headphones, and you're right there by Paul's piano. Around the band's playing, it feels like you're on the stage. Certainly some of it is novelty. There's even one that's kind of an animated roller coaster. You better be sitting when you're watching it, because as it does the loops, if you're standing, you could fall just from because you'd be leaning back as you're going around the loops. It's so realistic feeling. Right now, I can see it's being really huge for, let's say, real estate. If also you were going to move to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and there are several different houses that the realtor wants to show you, and if they were to be able to show you those houses and you pull them up in something like this, and you can navigate around the house and just look all around and be immersed in it, as well as other applications like that, to where you virtually are able to visit someplace. There is one that's part of the glass demo. The cardboard demo that you actually are in Versailles, in the Palace of Versailles, and first you're outside, then a tour guide takes you inside, and you're seeing the different rooms. And as you're looking around, the tour guide's talking to you. It's like you're there. It is amazing. And granted, it's not fully immersive because you still see, even though your eyes are close up to these lenses, you're still seeing some cardboard around in your periphery. So it's not, say, like Oculus Rift, where your entire field of view is immersed in it, so much so that it can make you sickly. But it's almost like a glorified viewfinder. Yeah. But still got a lot of potential.
The 21st century, folks.
It's going to be very interesting to see what else, what will be coming out of I/O that they're going to be talking about with more enhanced VR stuff. Is going to be, there's supposed to be a rumor of a derivative of Android called Brillo.
Yes.
And why they're calling it Brillo is beyond me. But if that's what they're going to call it, maybe that's just the project name. But
Brillo OS.
Supposed to be the kind of the the core thing that the Internet of Things, they would like to be the. She turned the camera back to me. More about what Brillo will actually bring. As I understand it, is that what they'd like to do is that it would be such a lightweight OS that what it would allow is that there's different hubs like Wink and Zigbee and all these other different devices that you end up having to have a hub to maintain all the other devices in the house to be able to be talking to one another. Instead, they would like for Brillo to just be running on all of those devices. And if they're successful at it, it could be huge, but this is a hot, hot topic. I think that even at WWDC, we're going to see stuff that has to do with Apple in the home, and that it's going to be just as much, if not more, of a hotbed of competition than the wearables, because to get on into the home with all of the possible connected things. Although at the same time, and I'm not usually a person to be concerned with, say, like the safety issue of things, or just when mankind went over. He's like, I hope they don't, blah, blah, blah. But so I'm not like a worry wart like that, but at the same time, I'm concerned that at this point in time, there's not been enough security around all of this, and when we start having a bunch of different devices connected, there's going to be ways that people are going to be trying to figure out how to compromise people's homes or the information they have through the Internet of Things, because if it's not regulated well. So it'll be interesting to see, because I know that there's even been some recent news about people who have keyless entry cars, and that there is a device you can get on eBay that is basically an amplifier, and the way that the keyless entry is supposed to work is your fob is talking to the car, and when you're in proximity of the car, it will unlock,
yes,
and then you will just press the start button. Well, so they gave an example. A person has their nice car, they go to dinner, they valet park it. Then the person who is, it's a two-person operation to end up getting into the car. One person has the amplifier and standing over near the valet box, so they're picking up the signal of the fob, transmitting it over to the person who's standing now near the car, and they're in the proximity, and also it's like, all right, I see you're near my car, you can get in. And then all of a sudden they open up the door and then they ransack the car. They don't necessarily steal the car, although they could, but just an example of how it's like, wow. And then there's been some stories about the cars that are now coming out that are going to be Wi-Fi connected, that potentially the car could get hacked by somebody else. And so that's a concern when it comes to the autonomous vehicles, is that you suddenly are taking over the controls of a car. So likewise in the home, it's still a lot to see. It'll be interesting to see what's going to be happening with Brillo and what they're attempting to do with the whole operating system being embedded into devices. There's also a separate thing for I/O is supposed to be ATAP, which is like the Advanced Technology. I can't remember the rest of this in platforms or something, but it is one of the parts that when Google bought Motorola and then when they went and sold them off from that initial purchase, they kept that ATAP division, which makes really cool stuff. So they've got some sessions planned for I/O to where they said, we've got some very exciting stuff that has to do with wearables that's going to knock your socks off, and we mean literally. So I'm not sure if they possibly are talking about something that has to do with wearables that's truly something embedded into clothing, but when they made the reference to knock your socks off, and literally, it just seems like that they are trying to give that roundabout hint of this is going to be something different for wearables that you haven't even been thinking about yet. And who knows? I mean, this is the exciting stuff. Be it Apple, Google, whoever, to where that sometimes they're in labs, they make crazy stuff, never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
And this could be one of those things.
80 or 90% of what creates in the lab goes to the trace can.
Yeah. I even read about something to where when Elon Musk was talking about his concerns, that there's an apartment that Sergey and Larry have that's nearby the campus, but it's an apartment just so that they can go and hang out with friends and do stuff. And occasionally Elon Musk will come on over, and the three of them will just be talking crazy ideas, and they said one recent crazy idea was something about a commuter plane that would like constantly be flying, and yet if you wanted to hop a flight from one place to another, you end up just going up to it and then getting on it and going. It's like, what? I mean, how they even immediately in my mind I'm thinking of 1,000 different potential things of like, how could this happen? Or how, and instead, you know, that's how they end up thinking of crazy ideas, because it'd be like, well, you're going to do this, then you're just, but right away you're just thinking, wait a minute, you're going to catch this moving target. I don't understand how you're going to do it. But that's just kind of craziness. Yes, might not ever see the light of day, but it spawns something else that ends up being a realistic, just like that. It's not hyper transport. It was the thing that Elon Musk was toying with. It's something like that.
Oh yeah,
I'll call it the hyper transport, Hyperloop.
Hyperloop. Yeah. California. Yeah.
And that very possibly where the realistic solution for our application of that will be freight. Not necessarily people, because that can be fucking scary that you're inside of that tube shooting like the speed of a bullet.
Yeah.
But let freight be able to move from one region of the country to another.
Canned pineapple can go that fast and stuff.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. But anyway, that's the thing about Brillo. And I just keep thinking of a scrubbing pad when I keep doing the dishes.
Yeah, and the picture I saw was boxes of Brillo pads with a big person talking in front.
And wasn't that Andy Warhol? That was a picture of Andy Warhol standing with a bunch of Brillo boxes. So one piece that really got that had me intrigued was that there is a rumor that there will be no Nexus tablet in 2015, but instead 2 Nexus phones, and that one will be 2015 Nexus 5, which people have been screaming about and saying, why did you make something as big as the Nexus 6? Granted, the Nexus 6 is pretty much on par size-wise with the 6 Plus.
Right.
And so there are people that are pleased with it. But when they made just the one device, and when you compared it to where you could get the Nexus 5, and it was like $350. But also they came out the Nexus 6, much, much larger, so that you're going to suddenly reduce down the size of the audience. And then 650 to 750.
Yeah.
And so that all of a sudden it's why they have not really sold as many in light base work. Like, you know, so then, that said, if they do make a 5.2-inch, which they say is codenamed Angler, and then the 5.7-inch is codenamed Bullhead, they say that LG is supposed to make the smaller one, and it's rumored that Huawei would make the larger one. This would be Huawei's first entry into the United States with a significant phone that literally would be sold here, because right now you can get a Huawei phone, but they're sold abroad, not necessarily available. I don't think that they're able to really get any partnership with carriers. So it'll be interesting to see if they do confirm that. Then, you know, I've been very pleased with my 2014 Moto X. I like the size of it. It's basically the baby size of the Nexus 6.
Right.
But if I could have, I also love the leather back. Just love it, love it, love it. If I could have a device that is, you know, pure Nexus, then I would be still waiting with bated breath for version 5.1 to come to this device, and 5.1 came out months ago for the Nexus devices. And just Motorola's been slower with it than in the past, to where like when people did have the Moto X, the original one, an update came a lot faster. You know, Nexus has got them, and then this got it pretty shortly after. So I would rather be on the Nexus program because I'm such a Google head that I would rather have those updates as soon as they come on out, and truly just have what is kind of like the flagship device for what Google thinks is the reference now. Okay, I see Mike is joining. Hello, Mike. I don't know if I've got my speaker on. Say something, Mike.
Yo.
I got you now?
I'm here.
There you go. Now.
And can you hear me, or do I have my mic muted? I hope I don't.
You must.
No, I'm not. I just know he's outside, so gosh knows what kind of outside noise. Or mowing the yard or something. So then, Android Auto. Now it's officially actually available in cars. The first car, as I understand it, is the Hyundai Sonata, so that you can purchase the Sonata and it's got Android Auto in it. Up to now, when they announced Android Auto in the past couple of months, you could get an aftermarket from Pioneer or whatever. See, I mean, I think one of them is down to be like about $600 or $700, but otherwise there's like a Pioneer unit like $1,200, $1,400. You've got to be kidding me. I know that Jason Howell from All About Android talked about it. It's like, why not just let Android Auto, let a phone go into Android Auto mode, and if it's in a car mount, just let it serve the same purpose as being, an in-mounted unit. But I don't think that's the direction they really want to go, because I mean, we've had that kind of capability where you can put a phone into quote car mode for the longest time. So instead, it's taking over your system in the car and integrated that way. It's just that it's still a pricey thing, but at this point in time, I'm fine with just the functionality that I have from my phone as I'm in there. But I would be curious to play around with Android Auto more and see real life scenario of using it while driving down the road and how much more convenient it is. Because then it's basically locking you out of other features so that you aren't doing dangerous things with your phone, and instead it's really making that functionality that you should have, be it navigation or reading messages to you, etc. Which in that vein, with the Moto X, is that Motorola has the Moto Assist, so as I'm driving down the road, if you send me a text, and it will say, incoming text from Richard, do you want to hear it? And I say reply, or just say yes, and then all of a sudden it says this is your phone to reply, say reply now. So it's really a Moto thing, not a Google thing, but it is that kind of, it detects that you're driving, like right now, that actually have a notification, see, that Moto Assist, screen's kind of bright. Let me turn the screen brightness down. Meeting. Yeah, so it detects them in meeting mode because that's something on the calendar, and then otherwise, then if I'm driving down the road, then it says it detects that you're driving and immediately goes into that more convenient mode. So, one other interesting little bit of Android news that recently just came out, and that is Cortana on Android. So I tell you, in the past couple of months, Microsoft has just done a bang-up job of where they are just serious about just getting onto the other platforms and really making a strong showing of it to where I don't think it's almost like the Google is fine being on any device because what they really just want is they want data, they want people to surf, they want so that they can sell their ads, etc. So then they want iOS users as much as they want Android users, etc. And to that same token, that it's like there will still be Windows phones, but Microsoft is taking all of those components and making them available to those other platforms. They're just saying, let's just be open about this and get it into as many hands as possible. And now all of a sudden, Cortana and Android.
Well, Tim Cook and the president of Microsoft, the new guy, they're meeting every month. They're meeting every month. Spend an afternoon together. One headquarters and the other headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure out of those meetings, that's where some of that comes from.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good thing for everybody in the business.
Sure. I mean, it's
because we all get access to other things then.
Yes. Indeed. It's great to have choice. I mean, that's one of the reasons, admittedly, that I prefer Android over iOS is because then I can have choice when, if I'm going to tap on a thing and it says, which app would you like to open this with, and those kind of things. It's, so again, it just comes to choice, and yet I don't dismiss the fact that the reason that iOS is such a solid performer, and it's because it software, hardware, the whole ecosystem that Apple owns, and because they're more controlling and don't get as much choice, they own the whole thing soup to nuts, and they're going to very strictly hand out privileges for you to be able to have certain functionalities. You know, but in that same token, just of having the choice, it's just great that if someone did want, and I know that it's going to be shortcoming, it won't be too awful long that we'll hear of Cortana for iOS. And then
it's the same. He's doing them both. Yes.
It's just like that if a person does want to, and I know many people who are like this who have an iOS device, and their whole hardware selection could be all iOS. They get a Mac, an iPad, and an iPhone, and be choosing to use Google products all across the board, because in all honesty, some of the apps actually work nicer on iOS than they do on Android, because they've just made a really hell of a strong app, be it everything from Gmail to whatever the case might be. And so likewise, now a person will be like, you know what, I like my MacBook, I like my iPad, I like my iPhone, but I really dig Cortana, and I dig what Microsoft's doing with that. And so then, then they just, or it's just like I feel free to just, I'll use which one I want to launch. If I, whereas I've kind of got all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. This kind of ties into this is that I got an Amazon Echo. It finally arrived about 2 weeks ago, and at first my wife was like, what in the world is this thing? And she still doesn't fully understand the functionality of it, but she's been trying to treat it like Siri, and it is kind of interesting that it is no Siri, it is no Google. There are certain questions you can ask, and it's Alexa is the key word. So you can change it from Alexa to Amazon. That's the only two choices. You can't change anything else. So it's kind of weird that but I will say I've got it in the kitchen, so I've got it situated to where it could really hear us in the living room if you really wanted to. Or there's also a little remote control. If you had that with you, then you could actually speak and then clearly hear her from the other room, because then the microphone would now be picking you up from the remote if you wanted to be in the other room and have it. I've just got it right now. It's got a magnet thing. I've got it on the refrigerator. Well, my wife, like I say, treating like Siri, and there's been things that she would ask where she'd say, Alexa, and she's asking these just general questions. And so far, I think she is 0 for 10. I would just say if she's asked 10 times, that she'd say, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. And she's just like, honey, I tell you, Alexa is worse than Siri. My wife can't stand Siri because Siri gets things wrong most of the time for her. And so then that's pretty bad if my wife was just a very layperson type of a user who was just saying, this Alexa thing, that's not doing for me. But I do find it very convenient, all those kind of things, to end up getting a device like this. It'd be a glorified timer. But lately, the thing I'm using it the most for, because it's in the kitchen, is a timer. So then if I was cooking, or we have one of our cats, then usually I'd use my Android Wear. Yep. So instead, I go to give him his food, I put him into the bathroom, I come out, and I'm just still doing something. It's so funny, because at first I'd be going over like I'm standing near the microwave, because it's on top of the microwave. I don't need to stand this close. She can hear you no matter where you're in the room talking. So now I'm to the point where I just come out and shut the door of the bathroom and go, Alexa, set a timer for 7 minutes. She's like, 7 minutes, starting now. And then, so I just move about my business. Like, now that's very handy. Now, granted, I need to leverage more things than that, but in all honesty, right now, this kind of ties back to where I was talking about, whether people are going to use Siri or they're going to prefer to use Cortana or like Google search. Is that I prefer doing my searches in Google because I use Google now so diligently. I don't want to go asking Alexa through the Amazon search thing, which I'm not even sure if it's their own search or what the engine is they're using. Could be their own, and maybe that's part of the reason why it's so weak and not coming back with answers that my wife would think, come on, you need to know the answer to this. One goofy thing, right, even from the setup of the Echo, was that out of the box, you get it connected to your Wi-Fi, you get the app on your phone so that you can make certain tweaks. There's more I can talk about in a moment. But suddenly I said, Alexa, what's the forecast for this week? And she starts reading off the forecast, and it just sounds so goofy. Come to find out, it's not our zip code. So then I wrote to Amazon, and I was like, how in the world? Because I didn't see any place inside the app where you could change it. And actually, I think there was once I dug. But it was like, I just connected to the internet. I just connected to our router. Can this device, just like a computer, not detect from Time Warner and say, the time, you're here?
Online.
So instead, then I had to go on and manually change the zip code for searching for stuff, and then now she'd be able to correct it. And it was like, wow, that was a fail there. You guys should be able to detect the location of where you're at a little easier than you have a manual intervention. But back to the news thing, it's kind of cool. And I can switch over for a second just to my other camera. Here. Anyone watching, you're wondering why I'm looking up off to the side, is that we're projecting it on the wall on a big TV, but it's off to my right so that I could fit. So then,
not you.
Open up.
It's still you.
Oh, it's still me. Wrong camera. The UVC camera. There we go. All right. So it's going to say the Echo app is offline, or the Echo is offline. Oh no, it is finding it. Oh, because it's still just connecting via the internet, which is cool. So you can see, this is an interesting thing, is it shows you on the main screen, when you go to the home screen, it shows you like the last things that you've been asking, which is kind of funny because at one point I just said, Alexa, you don't know a frickin' thing. And it was in there, but I didn't say frickin'. I just said, oh, because you said it all. I was like, oh, let's go back to Amazon. But see, Alexa, set an alarm for 7 minutes. Now my screen, I know, is a little hot, so let me turn it down just a little bit here. Did Echo hear you correctly? Yes, she did. Okay. So then there's set a timer for. Now here's where, who does RuPaul's makeup? Sorry, I couldn't find the answer to your question. And it says search Bing. So maybe Bing is the background, which is actually Cortana. So, does Ron Paul have a boyfriend? What is my wife asking? There's the weather in Louisville. Now, of course, I will say she would have noticed the median household. Oh, it said prize. That's why I didn't get price. But she is very conversational, which is very cool. And it's something that I've not dabbled in. We were talking earlier about Internet of Things and connected home, et cetera, is that you can connect like Philips Hue, several things. I've even got a Wink module that my friend gave me and I haven't hooked up yet. But some people have been raving about the fact that like with the Echo of just how nice it is to be able to control things in your home by just saying to Alexa, Alexa, turn on the front porch light, or whatever case might be, and then boom, she's doing it. I will say response time, very, very fast. Like when I said that, set the timer for 7 minutes, it's like there's no like, you're so used to like asking a question and see the spinner on your phone for a second while you know that it's like going out and querying and thinking and coming back. Instead, it's like set a timer for 7 minutes. Setting timer. I mean, it was just conversationally fast, just immediately answering back. So I'll say I'm impressed with that. I haven't set up like a to-do or a shopping list, but if you were, then that'd be an Amazon shopping list. So like if you were using Amazon Pantry,
right, then
you certainly could be doing that. I haven't ordered anything through Echo yet. I will say I have ordered through my watch. The other day I used the last shampoo that was in the shower, and I knew, okay, we do have another bottle, but I'm just going to go ahead and order another one from Amazon, and we had ordered it there before. So then I just set it on the Amazon.
Order shampoo, and it just says it knows what one to send.
One tap on my watch, and it was ordered. And that's scary as far as how simple that is. But anyway, so it would be convenient for BH to do this shopping list that you could end up adding those things, because then I've always, and this is coming, I know, but I would like for it to be more from the Google side of things, because I often talk to my watch or to Glass or to my phone and say, okay, Google, remind me when I get to work to blah, blah, blah. Or when I'm at work, I say, remind me when I get home to blah, blah, blah. And then that geolocation reminder goes off, or maybe it's a time-based reminder, whatever it might be, but I'm setting those, and I'm setting them through Google, which of course makes Google now smarter the more it goes along. I would love for there to be a little microphone that I could have, that one would be in the bathroom, upstairs and downstairs, one would be down in the basement, one would be on the first floor, one would be in the garage, and you're suddenly just walking around and you think of something. You don't even have to stop to write it. You're out in the garage and all of a sudden you're just like, Google, add to my shopping list, I need to get some more paint for the deck. Boom, it's done. You just go on inside later, and all of a sudden now you're passing on by your Home Depot, the list comes up and it's like, you said you needed paint for the deck. It's like, bingo, that right there. That's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about as far as that, wherever you're at, kind of a list kind of thing. But anyway, back to some of the stuff that Echo does. Once you hook up like your account, then your Prime stations and whatnot, there's Pandora, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. So then I could just say, Alexa, play some music, and what she'll play is the most recent thing that you have played, if it was from TuneIn or from Pandora, or whatever the case might be. Or you could state from your Prime music, which admittedly I'm using Google Play Music. I did load music into Prime way back when I first got Amazon and they had the storage to put songs on, but there's not a lot on there. But I could just say, play my songs, and it'll arbitrarily just start playing. Or if you make playlists, it'll do that as well. So that's pretty cool. And the speaker reminds me kind of like one of those Bose ones, the small type Bose clock that's got very impressive. Because I mean, I cranked it up when we were playing like some Judas Priest. I just said, "Hey, Alexa, play some Judas Priest," and it just started playing it from Pandora. And my wife loves Judas Priest, and it was rocking. I mean, it was like really good sound and bass out of this thing. The cylinder's only about 10 inches tall, but I was very impressed at that. As far as so, there's a convenient thing where it can become you're more than just a one thing. It can become a bunch of things. You could ask it a question. You could launch some music with it. You can control some things from home with it. You can just see where it's kind of the beginning of
in a Captain Picard voice computer. And,
well, she's got a very pleasant, and not very mechanical voice either. Very. Now, I will say there's some other things in here. Where is the? Do I just go to settings? Oh, there we go. Like flash briefing. Customize your news. So there's NPR, BBC, ESPN, Sports Radio, Economist, some NPR, and TMZ News. They just added some of these other ones just recently. You can choose whether it's the headlines and all those kind of things, so that I can just say, Alexa, play the news, and it's immediately just going to play. And it's kind of a short thing. I was surprised, because after it was done with that, where did it go to? It went to top news, which then it's just reading off, and it's more like then very much a computerized voice, whereas like when you say to Alexa, play the news, also is like, you're listening to NPR News, and you literally, it's just like now it's playing that station. Once you get on down and it was done with that, now granted, it would have played through all of these if you got them selected, but once it's exhausted that list, it's going to go on these, and what it's doing is it's really that, and it's computerized text-to-speech kind of thing. And so I was like, all right, enough of that. I don't need to hear that. But it's interesting that if you really did, while you were getting ready and you're making coffee and you're just doing whatever, and you suddenly had just kicked that on off. The thing is, in all honesty, I've not used this all that much, because when I get up, my routine is I put on, where's my Bluetooth headset, goes around my neck, and I am catching up on podcasts. If I'm already out of podcasts, I might be listening to an audible book as I'm feeding the pets and just getting ready for work. And lastly, if I wasn't in the mood to listen to the Audible podcast on Audible with my account, then I end up getting the New York Times, and that's for guys like reading all the headlines from the New York Times. So again, it's that stuff, but I don't have to be like right there in that room where the echo is. Instead, it doesn't matter if I'm stepping out of the garage or starting a little laundry, I'm upstairs getting ready to shower, or whatever, and it's just I've got my headset on and I'm just used to doing that. So admittedly, this functionality I'm not using nearly as much. But just for all intents and purposes, that if someone was interested in the Echo, now the thing is the Echo does cost $200. I took advantage of the deal to get it for $100 as a Prime member and get it early, which I say early, it's kind of funny, didn't get it until May, and I think I might have purchased the thing back about October.
And at first, money for 7 months, didn't they?
And at first I thought, I'm not going to end up keeping it, but at this point in time, especially since I did get it for half the price, I think I will hold on to it, because I want to use some more of that functionality of like that part that's like in the home. Those damn lights cost so much though, like the Philips Hue and whatnot. I mean, they're not cheap. They're 50, 60, 70 bucks. And it's like, I'm not so lazy that I can't get up. And granted, the Hue part, that sounds pretty cool, where like you could like...
It is LifeX. It's LIFX, and they're $40. And it comes with an app. They're Wi-Fi connected. They have a Wi-Fi radio in the light bulb. And it connects to your phone and your home Wi-Fi network, and I can control it on my phone.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I've got one in the living room.
Now, is it an
LED? It doesn't change color.
What kind of light bulb is it? Is it incandescent, or is it one of these other, like a...
It's not fluorescent, not incandescent.
Is it the curly Q?
No, it's not. No, it's
is it LED?
LED bulb.
Okay, so LED.
Yeah, LED.
Well, that's cool. So it's got a lot of life to it.
It doesn't do color, but it does shades and white. You can turn it way down, soft, get it bright.
So it's a dimmer.
Yeah, it's a dimmer, and it's on the Wi-Fi network, and you just do it.
Very cool.
Nobody's hacked it yet, so.
Yeah. And I could see to where, like, if you did have, and this would just be more for the fun than anything, but you suddenly have friends over, and if you did have some cue lights, and all of a sudden you're just like, Alexa, set party mode, and then all of a sudden, like, the whole room just like goes into
soft pastel,
and music starts playing or something. I mean, that kind of stuff is just we've seen shows that are like giving a glimpse of like what they think the future is going to be like, and it'd be like that. Our very smart home that we're talking to and doing things. Now, some of the things that I'd like regarding home, I know some of this discussion we get beyond mobile, but hey, it's all tech and all kind of ties together. But is regarding the smart home. Is that one day recently I went out to do something in the front yard with a stepladder, and when I came back in, I closed the gate behind me. Let, fortunately, just one of our dogs out, not the both. And a little bit later, she's looking, and she looks out in our backyard and sees our dog outside the gate barking, "Let me in." So she goes out to the garage, opens up the door, and lets her on. And then she messaged me. She's like, "Brandy got out. The gate was open." And she was worried that it might have been somebody up to no good. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, I did that this morning." And I was just thinking, if our little dog, Lucky, I'm not sure if he'd come back, because he'd just be like, and gone. And so in that regard, I would love to have a sensor on that gate as well as on my big garage door, because there's been more than once. And one time I actually suffered a theft due to it. It was my own fault. I left the door open and had a power washer sitting in the garage, and some boys walked off with it. I guarantee they went on by and said, "Check it out." And then, I mean, it's on wheels, take the thing, just go. Now I've got another one, a replacement one, and it is chained to my workbench so that when I use it, you know. But that was my own doing, because I left the door up all night long.
But
and if they're
had been open for 5 minutes, message.
Right.
Your garage door's open. You want to shut that?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So I mean, it does tie back to mobile, because I would want to get that notification. And I know actually when Wear first came out, they were showing it at Google I/O, and they had like the videos that they make. They're supposed to be demoing a product, and a girl rides up with her bicycle with some friends, and they stop right in front. And she goes, "Okay, Google, open the garage door." And I just don't start it up my watch. But you know, that's the kind of thing that's like dealing with any kind of wearable, is that convenience to where now you're talking to your smart home. Back to where we were talking about like things being compromised, like with the cars and so on and so forth, is there have been people who have been compromising these wireless door locks as well, that they'll hack those. You know, so it's just, there's...
Coming in a big circle back to the beginning of this thing, when we were talking about worldwide developers thing for Apple and iOS 9. And one of the things they have got to put in iOS 9 for Siri is, "Hello Siri." They've got to put that in there so that it just comes up when I say that. Just like, "Okay, Google, hello Siri." Now they do it. If it's plugged into the wall,
right,
charging, you can do that.
Okay? I guess they must have opted for that because of battery.
I guess.
Their choice was they didn't want because part of the reason on certain devices that it's able to be done, like the Moto and on the Nexus, is because there's a separate processor to handle that, and it's a low power processor. So that like when I go to wave my hand and see that it's 7:50 if I've got any notifications. Likewise, that maybe they just have to, whatever they need to do.
Whatever they need to do, they have got to do that. That just, you know.
But it's got to be plugged in, right? So if you were in a car and you're plugged in.
No, it has to be into 110.
Really?
It won't work in my car. Try. Now.
How does it know the difference?
I don't know. I do not know. But I've plugged it into my car. Now, the only thing I haven't done is I do have an inverter, and I haven't used it. Put it in the socket, plug the plug in, plug this in, do it that way. I haven't done that.
So I guess is maybe when you're plugged into AC that maybe the amperage is bumped up and then it detects and says, all right. But that's really odd. Just as far as like that.
It's not perfect, but it's really good. When this is plugged in, and you do have to turn it on to do that. It doesn't do it automatically. You have to turn it on, and I do. I have it on to do it. And it sits on my desk. Sometimes I'll have the radio playing in the background, just for noise. And there's a Sam Slope ad on the radio, and Terry Miners is in it. And they go, she goes, "Well, hey, Terry." And that sounds enough like, hey Siri, to make hello Siri, to make Siri come up. Because I'll hear that and Siri will go, yes, what? And I go, I'm saying you.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly times that, because if my Android Wear is in ambient mode, it's not hearing OK Google. But if it is, that there's times to where, now thankfully, that it's OK Glass on Glass, so that I don't end up mistaking and having that here. But there are times where I inadvertently launch Google. I didn't realize the watch face was on, and I meant to be saying it to the phone, and both of them were chiming. It's like, yeah, well, Calgon, take me away. There's too many things. They're all listening to me. There was another thing which I have not actually had a chance to play with, and maybe I'm going to try this right now, that came out. And it'd be interesting to see if people are going to spoof this. But I'm going to try this. I'm going to go to, I'll just take like my Twitter account. I'm on my Twitter tab. Do I have my speakers on? And I'm going to hit this little extension in the browser, if I can find it. That was Google Tone. That was my Twitter URL. What did it say? Tone. You can hear it itself.
Yeah.
Well,
here's the tone supposed to give you something.
If I had, like at home, and I have another computer that has the Tone extension, it would hear that and open up the page. But I can not only share page, but you can link to files and so on and so forth. So the idea is supposed to be, say like you were in a meeting and all of a sudden you're like, so what's the URL of it? Like, hold on.
There it is on your page too.
And I'm not sure. Mike, can you hear that tone as I'm playing it? Is it showing up on the Hangout or no?
No, it's not showing anything on the Hangout.
Okay. I was curious because I did hear it, and maybe it was because it was coming through a microphone when Tom Merritt was talking about it on his show, Tech News Daily, that whatever he's broadcasting, it probably is just like his URL to his own page. But it's like if anyone else had Chrome open with the extension, they saw when they were first playing with it when someone was just, because there's another, someone was talking about it, that there's another app right now that even works on phones, and it's a tone similar thing, so that you basically can share things, and even phones have the tone capability. And so then Google has been working on this tone thing for a bit. They said at first they were just having fun because they basically were rickrolling each other at work.
Yes.
That you suddenly had the thing just launch, and then everyone's computer's opening up to whatever the page might be. If it was the rickroll page, etc.
Matt.
So yeah, Mike.
Did you get the note I just sent you?
Oh, wait a minute. You're coming through the TV speakers, so let me turn up the sound a little bit. Say something again.
Can you hear me?
Keep going.
How about now?
Yeah. Oh, better. Yeah, I'm just turning it up so I can really hear it pretty good. Okay, so
did you get my Hangout note?
Yes, so we have talked a little bit about Brillo. We didn't really have a lot to say about it because I only just heard about it and understand it has to do with the Internet of Things. As I understand it, the premise is for it to be potentially embeddable onto different devices that would comprise the Internet of Things. So then instead of having to have a hub, all these devices would have Brillo running on them. So if you have anything more to expound upon it, by all means.
Well, you were talking about the garage door openers and stuff like that. Well, that's what your Brillo is going to be looking for.
So then, basically, would it be that there'd just be a
you'll have a central hub
switch that would be part of the, and then that little switch would have Brillo running on it on the Wi-Fi network, and
in a sense, yes, that's the way I'm hearing it, and it's supposed to be able to work with like home security systems. Google's getting back into the network in your home.
Yeah, I know it was a couple of years ago they were actually doing the Google at home thing, and then it all just kind of
Yeah.
Well, I think they scrapped that project and they went with Brillo because it's actually Google Chrome OS, but it's a really dumbed down light version. I mean, Chrome OS is already light enough as it is, but you're going to cut that almost in half, if not less than half, and it's going to control different features. You'll be able to control your Nest. You'll be able to control your Nest fire alarms and smoke detectors and your door locks and whatever else with it.
Hello, pups.
Yeah, they're back there barking.
Chrome, though. I thought it was Android.
No, I think I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive they said it was going to be based off the Chrome OS.
Okay. Well, either way, I mean, I know the line is blurring.
You think about it. If they do it with Chrome OS, you'll be able to control it from any device, anywhere, any place.
Right. I mean, it would be the same thing, just like all of where I've got 4 tabs open in Chrome here on my Chromebook. I open up my phone, and those tabs are there. So just like immediate, just everything is just immediately transferable from one device to the next, and they're all just...
Right. Imagine your security cameras. They're all going through the Brillo.
Uh-huh.
You just open a tab up, and then you can just shut your laptop down, pull it right back up on your phone, and be able to still monitor the house or do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of neat things that'll be done with it.
And I wonder if
I'm losing
that, then if that helps to alleviate, we were talking a little bit just about some of the concerns that are still lingering when it comes to the Internet of Things, and just that it's kind of the wild, wild west right now, and the potential for someone to have everything from his, and for it to be easily, I don't want to say easily, but relatively easily hacked, compromised, and if it's based on Chrome, perhaps not so much.
Yeah, you can. If you think about it, I mean, they've added the feature now. You'll be able to unlock your Chrome OS device with your phone just being near. But you have to go into your security settings and say this device has been authorized. So if you add these type of features to the OS, then nobody's device is going to be able to just go in and do it unless their MAC address or something of that nature matches what's in the system.
Right. And I know that, are you locked up, Richard? You look like you're frozen there in a contemplative thought.
Well, I'm wondering why I dropped out of Google Hangouts.
Yeah, I know that the one thing I really like, and we might hear more about this as well, is just about trusted devices.
Yeah.
They're set as a trusted device for my Chromebook, and earlier when I was getting connected here at the park, that I had a Chrome update, so Chrome restarted. As soon as it restarted, there's my icon, and it says tap the picture to log in. I didn't have to type my password because he's reconnected. So he's reconnected.
Yeah, I'm getting a bird call on my other end here. Yeah, I'm getting a bird call on my other end.
All right. So, anything more on Brillo, Mike?
Nothing. I mean, all of it will probably be coming out on Thursday or tomorrow about Brillo.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure is a goofy name.
Yeah, it is. I'm wondering if they actually bought out the name Brillo, because it is it is a copyrighted name for the Brillo pad. Be interesting. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces about it and stuff, and about the new Nexuses that are going to be coming out.
Yeah, looking forward to. It's going to be quite a lot of stuff, and I'm eager to hear more about all of it. Thursday and Friday, it's going to be a hard day to focus at work.
Yeah, no
Particularly
kidding.
Thursday.
I'm hoping G2 comes out.
You know, I mean, I like to watch. I even watch WWDC keynote.
Yeah,
I want to watch.
I want to see what Tim has to say.
When they announced for the watch, I was right there. Said, hey, this is at work. I'm blocking this time. This is a big thing. It's mobile. It's what I do. And sit there and watch it, and I want to get it quickly. I don't want to be watching it hours or days later. I want to absorb it.
Fingers are crossed that Glass comes out, the new version.
We were talking about that a little bit, and now this is the thing. We won't. Maybe they might mention something about that it's being worked on, but there won't be anything like to physically show. They might talk about it and just say, Glass. We're working with Intel. We're working with Luxottica. Be watching for more on it soon, and that kind of thing. But there's also a little snippet that sources that I spoke with who wish to be unnamed, or how do they say that in the news?
Anonymous. Remain anonymous.
Just they always say, sources do not want to be revealed. This person I spoke with is connected to Luxottica, and when we were talking about me still wearing glass, they said, well, it's interesting, it's cool that you are still wearing them because Luxottica is working on a version of glass where it's built into the goggles. They're making a set that'll be working, they were describing several different that they were working on what they call version 2 of glass, and that they'd have something out soon. And they said Google is working on version 3 of glass. So it's kind of interesting. There's like, would what we're going to possibly, if we were to see something, would it just be this is Luxottica's take on existing hardware, but implementing it into some of their stylish frames? I don't know. There's been patent drawings showing glass where the prism is actually part of the lens, and so you don't see a prism, and the camera is just embedded into the horn of the frame. Folding frames, there's been a bunch of different renderings, but those are just patent patents. Anything else has been somebody being very clever with Photoshop or something, making a version that looked like Ray-Bans, and so I haven't really seen. The only thing that I've seen, and let me see if I can pull it up really quick, was that this girl, Shara, he totally grabbed an image.
Talking about Chara Kelly?
Shara Kelly? Yeah. And it was a picture that she showed, and I took it as that she was doing a little tease, as if like maybe she was under NDA, and then they finally said, you can go ahead and post something about this if you wish, but the thing is, I've not seen anybody else post it. So then, there we go. Internet connection is still.
It's funny, Richard's video feed is a lot better than yours is, Matt.
Is it really?
Yeah, you kind of look like Max Headroom, kind of shaking your head and speeding up on your speech. And
I wonder.
Now, I'm on an iPad with the new version of you can't hear me because I got my mic, but maybe you're hearing me with the new version of Hangout for Mac. And my picture is good. You are Max Headroom. In him a little bit, but not near as bad as you are.
she posted.
Are you taxing your computer, Matt?
Pardon?
I said, are you taxing your computer?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, I'm just doing the Hangout. I don't know if my being connected, I'm using my USB-C connection out to HDMI on the wall, which I really don't need to be doing, in all honesty, because, but I'm waiting for, I definitely having a little so I'll find of some glass, and you don't see a prism. $56K connection. I'm not sure. I should be close because she's doing some other. You got anything exciting while I'm scrolling? Speaking of glass, I don't see you sporting it.
My question is, would there be a secondary market in glass at VDOT 3? Like, you know, you want to get an upgrade. What are you gonna do with that? You're gonna be able to sell that to
They're
somebody?
going to, well, first off, one of the things that was seriously could have used an improvement. Here we go, found the picture. Is that this is running on a Texas Instruments processor, which used in the Galaxy Nexus, which was 3 Nexuses ago. There was the Nexus, there's the Nexus 6, Nexus 5, Nexus 4, and before that was the Galaxy Nexus that came out like on Verizon and some other carriers, and that's the same processors in glass, so they definitely use some old parts. So that when you think about it, that once they would have some new functionality, new bells and whistles that would work with glass, with a new version, that this version would be so limited. It would kind of remind me as if like that at some point in time, one of the first watches that came out was the LG G Watch. They called it the Watch. Very ugly, just square, nondescript black slab. That's the one you can currently get for $50.
Yeah.
For the most part, it does the same thing as my Zen watch does. But at some point in time, once this hardware goes on to this next version that's going to end up having, will it have, well, most of them will have Wi-Fi in them, so they can take advantage of that connection where you're at. Might they have a speaker in it? Also going to have a souped up processor. Then also they start adding more bells and whistles to it. That G Watch is going to be a hard pressed to do anything beyond just like basic notifications, but it still could function.
Right.
So there will. Glass, they might just have it sitting in their drawer because they're thinking no one will want to buy it, or maybe they're hanging on to it because they're just like, I'm not gonna, like, I paid $1,500 for it. I'd rather be sitting on it than to sell it for $400. I can understand that.
You'll be lucky to get 400.
Yeah, Joey, and I want to see if I'm able to go to the Hangout. Capture. No. I want to share. I mean, which
Go up to your cog.
up here.
Yes. Never mind. Doesn't let you do it. I thought maybe you could put your screen up.
Let me see if I can just. Oh no, I'll turn off capture. I want to share That's not the control room. Huh. Oh, this isn't the right one either. I don't need that.
Here, put your camera.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can do that. All right, I'm going to switch my camera to my other one, and then I can just look at the picture on my screen. Just seeing, it's got a little picture of an Android dude on the side. I know my screen's too bright for you to really be able to see that. But it folds. Oh, there we go. If I get a little closer, maybe it can adjust. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like white, so that's the touchpad. And then otherwise, I see there's a camera button. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. But it doesn't. What just happened with my picture? Whoops. I did something goofy. Is it something with also the mirror type of thing, and it's projecting onto the lens? I don't know. Or is this a totally bogus thing? But this is the only picture I've seen of this. So then she said, here it is, the new Google Glass. And, you know, it could just be somebody's mock-up. It could be a Luxottica mock-up of this is what we'd like to achieve. And you start to make it just kind of a working model for people to try it on, and who knows. But that might be something my thoughts on that is just the fact that it was only just a couple months ago that the Explorer program officially came to an end. You let the dust settle from all of the glass is dead, that's it. And has there been enough time to have reeled it on in and have something worth showing at this point? I know that they are supposed to be working with Intel and working with Luxottica, but you know, Tony Fadell, I think he needs a little bit more time behind closed doors to release a product and have it be. Oh, Humana Q just reminded Richard to.
I'd say a lot of the hardware was already completed before he came on.
That the announcement was made with Luxottica, although I understand that there was somebody from Luxottica or in that organization who left because he was in disagreement between the CEO of Luxottica and Google in what direction they were going to go. And so he was like a key person. So he wasn't a CEO, I want to say he might have just, wherever he was a high-level exec. He was like, I'm out of here, and left. So, be interesting to see. You kept that part on the down low.
Sure.
If nothing else, if they did have some sort of teaser they could just throw on out just so people could be talking about it. If they just said, yeah, maybe Tony comes up on stage and says, we're working on it, and it'd be new and great, and that's all I got to say, see you later. It'd be newsworthy. Just
Yes.
Mike, just curious for you as far as like, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but as far as a day-to-day reaction to you wearing glass, do you get any kind of comments or, you know, anything? That's what I'm looking for is more from the negative standpoint.
Well, kind of both directions on that. You know, I was wearing heavily. A lot of people would ask me questions, but the last 2 weeks I haven't really worn glass.
I had told a story a while back to where, you know, the first time I really had a negative reaction was, you know, when I was up at Notre Dame and ended up having, getting accosted by Digger Phelps because he said, are you filming me? But aside from that, and my reactions have not really, there's not been negative. There might be a question like, are you filming me? And I'd explain. And then I was at Derby with my wife and some family, and as I was looking around, actually, I think that we were waiting for some family to meet up with us. So I'm like, like looking up and looking back through the crowd to see so I could wave and say, hey, we're over here. And some people right near me were asking and said, oh my gosh, is that Google Glass you're wearing, and what's it like, so on and so forth, because those who have never seen it still are fascinated with it and got questions about it. Yeah. And then one guy who's a little further back, and he struck me as being an IT type guy. He just looked just looked like he's well-educated, 50-something, and very well-dressed, etc., and just was really starting to go off on a negative thing, where he was just saying something along the lines like he was insinuating like, oh, I thought those were all vaporware now, can't believe someone would still be wearing that, that's just like so done, and just was continuing on, and I just like turned my head and just like, once I found where my relatives were, they were walking this way, and a couple other people were like, man, I'd give him the what for, and I was like, it's not even worth it. I'm not going to sit there and get into an argument with a person who wants to just like taunt. That was the first time that I had really had someone was really trying to like egg it on, and I did want to just say something. Like, yeah, I wanted to say something. Well, you know what? I enjoy still using them. I work amongst a bunch of hipsters who. There was one guy who recently came out up to me and said, will you have a minute? I'd like to really check him out. And I showed him to them, and we spent 15, 20 minutes, and I was just really pleased that he actually, and then there's others who they've never even once, because it's like so below them. And it cracks me up, because it's just that kind of like, they're all Apple, and they thought they were stupid from the very start. Now it's dead, and you look stupid wearing them, and so on and so forth. And that it's like, and so it's like, that's fine if you aren't interested. I know it's not for everybody, but I myself continue to wear them, largely because they are my prescription glasses, so I'm going to be wearing them anyway. But at the same time, I still use them quite frequently, admittedly not as heavily as like when there was a lot of really active development going on, and I was playing with all sorts of apps, but even this past weekend, we're camping, we're out in the country, I go on outside, starlit night, I turn on Google Sky Maps and was looking around and took some screenshots, and it was just a blast, because I was just looking around at all sorts of constellations and what star is that? Oh, that's Jupiter. Oh, that's, and just seeing things all over the place. It was just really, really cool. And it's like, that is, yes, you could do it with a phone, but you'd be holding the phone out in front of your face as you'd be looking. And instead, I'm looking and just referencing whatever I'm looking at. Right now, I'm looking at this. Wow, I'm over there and looking at that, and it's there. Is convenient. So I still think there's a need for it, there's a future for it, even at a personal level, much less. It's just the industrial, medical, that's right now.
I see it medical.
Big time, but they don't care what it physically looks like in that environment.
No, they don't.
For mass public use,
I take pictures with it.
For mass public use, and I can imagine there's probably some serious debate about this internally, like in the Tony Fidel entourage, for them to talk about, there's got to be a version that's not going to have a camera, so that at least someone can enjoy it.
Talking about iOS users?
Yeah.
Apple's developing their own.
Oh, you know it.
Somewhere in the pipeline,
right?
John Ivy's designing a new one.
And if these were really, if you were to take and spread some stuff on out, and if it didn't have a camera in it, if you really did get the technology to where it's all transmitted onto the lens of the glasses, it could be made very stylish very easily, because you distribute. Instead of all being over here, you distribute it amongst the stuff. You make them so they're foldable. You make a version so it's not going to offend anybody because there's no camera. Now, granted, though, it's not on the camera. Could I live without the camera? Yes. But admittedly, even this weekend while we were camping, I probably took 30, 40 photos, took some video. We rode a tandem bicycle down on the riverfront. We rode up the spiral, went across the river, riding on back on down. I'm filming this all the way on down. I would have not wanted to be filming with my camera, riding in this tandem bicycle, but I did it with glass because it's just natural. Yeah. So without the camera, it would seriously be missing. But yes, I could deal with it.
They'll make one with and without, I think, and mostly because some people won't want a camera. But putting the thing on your lens. Heads-up display on a lens is old technology. I mean, it's easy to update that to fit on
Right, I'm saying the camera won't go anywhere is because if you make it invasive, in other words, if it's hidden, they don't see it, it's invasive.
Well, that's true too. Second generation, maybe third generation of police officer cameras, body cams, are going to be Google Glass body cams.
Yeah.
They're going to be on a frame, on the face.
I also look forward to them just being a little bit more, because of the foil. I haven't had a foil issue since the one time. But if it's raining, I've got my case with me, and my glass goes in the case, and it's not that I'm blind, but I mean, that because if it was raining, I'm going to put them in the case and carry them rather than risk, because technically they should be able to get wet. It's like it wouldn't kill you. So, but if they made a version to where instead of having the prism where there's foil out there that can get messed up, if everything is really a bit more, I'm not saying you're going to go submersing them, but that if you're out in the rain, just like wearing regular glasses, you just got to deal with the fact you've got like raindrops all over your glasses and it's driving you nuts. But that it could still function. So we'll see. Be interesting to see if they do mention something. If they don't, I'm confident that it'll be when they're ready, we'll be seeing another version, and I eagerly await that because, these are getting long in the tooth, and I was hoping by now there'd be a version that would have been a revised version by now, and instead they really just had to, at least they can see all these learnings they've gotten from all the people who have used them, and they've gotten some really quality data as far as like knowing what worked, what didn't, what people are asking for.
Exactly.
Expect out of it. And I was saying earlier, Mike, I still, Android Wear or Glass, if you were to say to give one up right now, I'd hand you over my Android Wear. I would want my notifications on Glass instead.
It's easier to navigate and to focus on the road than to sit there and take your eyes off the road to look at your watch or look at your GPS on your dash when you can use peripheral vision to be able to view the maps right there on front of your glass.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. All right, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And we'll be looking for you online I'm sure we'll be having all sorts of comments about Google I/O, and shortly thereafter be WWDC and see what Apple's got on the pipeline. I'm sure we'll hear hints of some of that while I/O is taking place, but I think we'll have plenty to be talking about at our June meetup, and I'll make sure to get the event scheduled in advance. And then Richard,
you can have it here.
So, all right. So we will be planning on physically having it here at the park.
The park.
It's at 1229 South Shelby Street. Great location. I've currently got this camera on, but anyway, this is a very cool co-working space, and Richard has graciously made it available.
We can handle 45 people.
So got a good-sized room right here that would handle like a dozen people. But if we, there's more space, and big room out there that we'd be able to meet in as well. So nice just to be able to have a great meeting place to continue to have the meetings at, and otherwise then continue to have the hangout on air as well, so people can be able to watch it later or just join remotely. So that said, we'll see you in June, and without anything else,
that's all for me.
Peace out.
See ya.
See ya.